Here's something that I think should have received more attention than it has. Among the many things the House of Representatives can't do right now because Republicans can't elect even one of their own number as Speaker, among the things the House can't do is it can't take up President Biden's request for money for Ukraine and Israel. There is a third part of that funding request, though, which is languishing, that has gotten a little less attention. The funding request that's on the table right now includes several $billion for security at America's southern border, as well as services for immigrants who are already here and who are awaiting immigration hearings. While that money depends on congressional Republicans getting their act together, though, there is one change to America's immigration system that is set to go ahead regardless of whether or not they ever get their act together. And it's because it's coming through the courts. A settlement between the federal government and the American Civil Liberties Union, the ACLU, looks like it is finally going to bring at least some closure to one of the darkest chapters of the Donald J. Trump presidential administration, one of the darkest chapters of our moral lives in this generation. You will recall that under the Trump administration's so-called zero-tolerance immigration policy, we saw thousands of little kids separated from their moms and dads, taken out of their mom and dad's arms. The children were put into government custody, while many of the parents were deported or prosecuted, according to the Department of Homeland Security, even though there's been a Biden administration task force from day one that has been working on this. As of at least a few months ago, roughly 1,000 kids still have not been reunited with their families. And this is due in large part to the fact that the Trump administration, while they were taking all these kids away from their moms and dads, they did not bother to keep track of which parents went with which kids and where different family members were sent. But now, if this new settlement is signed off on by a federal judge, family separation will formally be banned in this country. The settlement also provides for support services for those who were separated from their families when Trump was president, including things like housing and medical care and behavioral health benefits, which you might expect they will need for these immigrant families dealing with the trauma of the U.S. government coming in and taking away the kids from their parents. Attorney General Merrick Garland said this about the settlement. He said, quote, "The practice of separating families at the southwest border was shameful. This agreement will facilitate the reunification of separated families and provide them with critical services to aid in their recovery." Again, it still needs to be approved by a federal judge, but, you know, this is a moral wound that can never really be healed. If this happened in your family, it will have multi-generation consequences, right? But at least this, right? At least this thing, which we all lived through, that we can never forget happened in our country and all in our time, in which we are therefore all, at some level, required to morally answer for. At least we're finally starting to bind this up and to fix it at last.